go to the factory floor.
Right.
If you're a deep tech company, go
Yeah.
to, if you're helping with waste, go to an existing
Yeah.
waste plant and go try to help them in their daily basis, daily actions.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just,
You're imagining.
Yeah,
You're
imagining.
theorizing,
But then pivot. Then,
And you've got to be willing to pivot. Yeah.
and bury the idea.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love with your idea all the time
Exactly.
and say, okay, this is the game, the golden idea. No,
Right.
this is not a golden ticket idea.
Your
And
first
probably-
idea will not be your golden idea. Let's imagine that, I'm a deep tech startup. I'm getting some traction in Europe, but quickly I see that I want to go bigger. I want to go globally. What would be the first step to actually scaling globally and getting to that bigger level?
Okay, the first step is not raising more money.
Okay, right. Why do you think that it's so hard for European entrepreneurs to maybe have these huge ambitions, these big dreams?
One word.
Okay.
Fear.
Okay,
I say,
right, yeah.
Yeah, there's the fear of that ambition. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of Reactor podcast. My name is Jerome, and today this is a particularly interesting in conversation we're gonna have because I have my friend and also entrepreneur Christina, and we're gonna talk about tech, startup, globalization, going into the US. Welcome, Christina.
Yeah, thanks, Jerome. Yeah, and I just want to say a big welcome also to all of the listeners from Transatlantia, where we're turning European entrepreneurs into U.S. market leaders. Very exciting episode to be here with my friend, former client, entrepreneur, guy that I just appreciate all around, Jerome. And we're going to talk a lot about how to turn European tech CEOs into global leaders, whether that's on the U.S. market or the American market. What's your playbook for getting them to that position? Yeah, very excited to be here.
Yeah, this is particularly interesting because a lot of my listeners, a lot of my guests, also European startups, and even outside Europe, they dream of making it into the US, and usually they fail and crash because they are not ready or not they're going in the right way. So Christina has helped hundreds, thousands of entrepreneurs land $1 billion contract in the US. So I guess it's going to be a really interesting conversation today. I hope you get a lot of insights about going to the US very big.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So like I said, very excited because one of the things that you really talk about in all of your messaging and everything that you do is if you're a tech CEO, your first job is to sell. You have to be a salesman. And I'm a total believer of that. And so I think that the things that we're going to get into today are going to be really interesting for all of these very smart, very high level tech CEOs, but who just need a little bit of help becoming salespeople. And that's what you're all about. And so, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Let's go. So I would say maybe if we just talk about, I don't know, what's the biggest mistake that you see European tech CEOs make when they try to go global?
They usually think that technology would sell itself, that customer will go through the door whenever their product is ready.
Sure.
And they will know that it's ready. They will directly ask for an invoice and buy it. Yeah. And usually a lot of people say, when I talk to them and say they're waiting. They're waiting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Really for these big corporates to know when they are doing no advertising whatsoever. And they're just selling technology and they're not focusing on value proposition. And even the ones that are going out and talking to customers, usually they try and push their product and technology and they don't listen and they don't get any feedback from the customers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can be selling the right product, even with the right value proposition.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you don't really get into the shoes of your customer.
Exactly.
And, I used to work in the company a few months back and I helped them and they were trying to sell a very, very tiny thing in robotics.
Yeah.
And automotive, very, very specific.
Yeah.
And they had They had already customer tractions, Europe. And they told me, but no one is coming yet. And they were doing some kind of marketing. And the thing is when we started working together, I said, okay, let's talk about this company. And there was not a tiny company. They were helping French space agency.
Yeah, right.
So which was a very legitimate.
It's a pretty big client.
Yeah, exactly. And that was very strong for marketing. And I say, we're going to push that for 3 months. Like, just try to say, we help the French-based entity do that. And it saves them money, it saves them time, whatever. And you should have seen all the big corporate names in the aerospace industry coming up, like, we want to know what you did with Space Industry, because we want the same.
Right.
We want doing the same.
They do the same thing.
And they sign, and that was like inbound marketing. That was not hard for them, because they just talk about what they do.
Yeah.
And that's usually simple. You talk about what you do every day.
Yeah.
And that should be your main focus. That would be the first mistake that they all do.
Right. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like talking about what you do, how you help your clients, what you're going to be able to get for these other clients that you're trying, like, make it simple.
Yeah. Make it simple, man. And talk about people. People love talking about themselves.
Yeah.
So, if it's the same for you, and they are being sold something or pushed into buying something, they don't want to. Like, they want to feel that they need the stuff. And so if you're not putting that into perspective, into entering global market, even if you're a French company going to the Italian market, what's happening in Italy right now? What's the big trend? What's the issue with most of the company?
Exactly. You've got to pull them into your product rather than pushing your product onto them.
Exactly. It has to come from them. Exactly. That's And on the flip side, so when our European, founders target the US, what's their first mistake? What do they do?
I'd say there's maybe two big mistakes that I've seen a lot. And the very first one that I feel like almost everybody makes is just underestimating the differences between the European market and their European clients versus the American market and their American clients. And we're not talking about like the regulations and all of that, because very often they're like, all right, we know that we don't know this. That's the difference, I would say. They know that they don't know the parts about the regulations, the legal aspects, etc. So they're really going to invest in making sure they get that right. So that's good. But then they underestimate the differences just in terms of how the market works, in buyer mindset, buyer psychology, the cultural differences. I mean, there's, two things I was talking to a guy that's most likely going to become a client, and they do tailored software. They tailor their software, their clients' needs. And we were talking about it, and I said, well, when you're going into the US market, what are you going to have to do differently? What do you think you're going to have to do differently? And he said, well, I don't know. We might have to tweak some things, but I mean, 90%, it's probably going to be the same. I'm like, all right, no, we're going to talk about this. So that's the first thing, is just assuming it's going to be like 90% it's the same. We're going to put it in English. We might change a little bit, but otherwise it's going to work. Another example is a friend of mine from Grenoble who's just recently gone and started living in the US. And I was talking to him on LinkedIn, and I said, what are the differences that you've seen? And he's like, it's really, really different. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, yeah, it is. And he said, I didn't think it was going to be this extreme. So I still need to find out what exactly are the differences that he's seen. I really want to get into that and maybe bring him onto the podcast or something. But and I would say that he's somebody who prepared for this. I mean, he's been preparing for this move to the US. So he didn't just kind of go, thinking I'll see what's going to happen. So just don't underestimate those differences. That's going to be the key thing. The other mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs making is they're really like hardcore focusing on just lead generation and getting appointments. So for example, this could be like spending and losing a lot of money on like lead generation agencies. Or I'm not knocking lead generation agencies, but if you're not doing the work to adapt your messaging, to adapt, how you're going about selling your product, talking to your clients, etc., and you're getting people who are going out and getting appointments for you, you're basically paying people to get appointments with you, and you're going to go into that appointment and you're going to mess it up because you haven't done all of that work to adapt to the American market. And I've talked to so many people who are like, yeah, we're paying lead agencies like $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month. And they've sent out 3,000 emails and we've got 3 appointments and none of them were qualified. And I'm like, yeah, but, so I would say that one, but also just like focusing on trying to get those appointments as your main goal. And I had a guy contact me through LinkedIn, and he said, hey, we're looking to go into the American market. Do you have any contacts in, I think it's like in insurance industry? I said, yeah, I've got a pretty good network. I'm a member of a lot of different associations and networks, and, I could probably find you some. But before, let me just have a look at what you're doing. And he's like, I'm just interested in getting appointments. I'm just interested in getting introductions. And I'm like, I went and looked, at his LinkedIn and their website. Their LinkedIn was not in English. Their website was in English, but it was full of jargon and just not very salesy, let's say, in a positive way. And I was like, you're not ready for these introductions. And he's like, that's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in anything else. I don't want a training program. I don't want an accelerator. I just want I'm like, I'm not introducing you. So if you're focusing too much on that, the introductions and the appointments without doing the groundwork, you're setting yourself up for failure. And if you're exactly, that's it. And I think that's what it is. It's like you're focusing on, it's almost like focusing on like the dopamine hits, like I'm getting the appointments. Yeah. I'm moving forward. But if you're not doing the groundwork before, you're just like, it's like going into a battle unarmed. And why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah. And also you mentioned that you cannot mess, you are, let's say you can mess those appointments and actually fail to enter the market where the leads would have been qualified if you did the job. After the call, the guy was looking at your website and it was, with the right wording, with the video in English.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're just messing up a good opportunity. It could be a qualified lead as well. It could be, and you are not even tapping into the differences between states, between if you're targeting US Coast or California, it's different.
Different ways of doing business.
That's also a big challenge because you're not tapping into a small market.
Right.
It's going fast. It's going, it's going to be different.
Yep.
And you're going to be challenged. Also, what I've seen from your experience is that people won't trust. And if they see that you are not trustworthy, even you have already a gap when you're a foreigner.
Yeah.
You're a foreigner, so then there's a gap first.
Sure. Yeah.
And then after that, there's like, okay, can he deliver?
Exactly.
Can you deliver on your results?
Yeah.
Even if you promise, some kind of big opportunities for the customer.
Right.
Like, can you deliver?
Exactly.
Deliver. To jump into the question, because this is the title of the episode from my channel, and a lot of people are asking about this billion deal that you helped your customer sign.
Right.
So can you tell us the story about this huge contract, even if you cannot quote names?
We'll not quote the name.
Yeah. Let's go through the process.
How that happened, yeah. So this was interesting, and I would say that this is something that we actually see very often, the entry point, let's say. Meaning, so it's a company, it's a catering company, and they work with airlines, airplanes, airports, things like this. And the guy came to us and he said, I'm going to be moving to the US, or my company is moving me to the US rather. And so I need to work on my English. And so I said, okay, yeah, great. We can do that. And then we start working with him, and, we get in and we always do like a diagnostic of objectives and things like that. And we say, well, what is it that you need to work on? And he said, well, I need to work on my English because I'm going to be in the US. I want to work on the culture because I know that there's some differences, but I don't know what those differences are. I'm going to need to be able to negotiate contracts, to manage an American team, like just all of this, I would say not easy stuff to do already when you're in your own culture and your own language. But here you're going into a foreign culture in a foreign language in Texas, of all places, which I would say actually Texas has a bad reputation, but it's actually a lot better than we imagine it to be. And so we said, all right, we're going to start working on everything. So we started off with just kind of like some overviews on what are the main things that you need to know about the different ways of doing business. And so this is things like, the approach to time already, like that's a big thing. Punctuality, meetings, structure, all of this stuff. So we start with some basics of American business culture. And then we really started from, I want to say like the beginning, meaning how do you introduce yourself? How do you talk about who you are and what you do when you're going into these meetings and you're going to introduce yourself to your American colleagues? And, you would think that's not something that you need to be working on when you're at this level. But like I said, you've got to go in with this kind of beginner's mindset and thinking, I've got to really level everything and then build back up. So we started working with all of the basics. We worked a lot on the aspect of socializing, small talk, building up rapport. Because a lot of times we think that Americans, it's direct, it's to the point, it's all about business, and that's the only thing that matters. And while the business does go fast, building up that relationship is important. It's just that the way that it's done is very different from what we do here in Europe. Europe, we're going to meet several times. We're going to maybe have like a meal together. And it's going to take a lot of time to build up that relationship before you can start talking business, let's say. In the US, you're going to still build up that relationship, but it's going to be faster. It's going to be shorter, but it's still building the relationship. If you try to go straight into the deal too early, it's just not going to work out. So we worked on that aspect as well, because very often it's something that is neglected in, business practices, let's say. And then we really got into the heart of, all right, you're going to be going into these meetings. How are you going to present, what you guys have to offer? How are you going to do your pitch? We looked at the documents. We looked at the slide deck. We rearranged everything just because the way that you persuade in Europe is going to be very different from how you persuade in the US. In the US, we're going to start talking about, what's in it for me? What's the value? What's the problem? What's the solution? Do a little bit of storytelling in there as well. Not so much focusing on like the specs or the techno, even though catering is not technical, but let's say the technical aspects of your product. And so we totally flipped that. We did a little bit of work, with the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Really some like hardcore negotiation role play techniques, things like that. So that when he was going into these meetings with him and his team, they were prepared for this. And so it was really like working to get them ready for U.S. business culture in general, building up the relationships, building up that rapport, the negotiation skills, working on all of the materials you're taking in there. And now he's like, negotiating big contracts with American airline companies. He's like, that's just part of my job now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, you've got to go in with kind of that beginner's mindset and be ready to redo and rethink everything that you know about business. Even if you've got 20 years of experience, you've got to start from scratch almost.
Cool. That's masterclass of understanding of buyer things in the US, and you're adapting to your market. So I see the patterns in Deeptech as well, like climate tech. If you don't position it yourself for the new market, you're gonna fail. And this is, you need to be thinking about urgent, critical problems to corporate buyer won't move otherwise.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not going to work. And I think that's one of the key points. And this is one thing that I really like about your messaging and what you do is really like pushing founders here in Europe to think bigger. I mean, in the US, we have expressions, go big or go home, things like this. Why do you think that it's so hard for European entrepreneurs to maybe have these huge ambitions, these big dreams?
One word, fear. Yeah, there's the fear of that ambition. And it's a general mindset that we don't want to disturb. We don't, annoy people.
Yeah.
And usually it's what you see in marketing. A lot of people are telling me when I do marketing / outbounds, getting to calling customers or mailing customers, a lot of people are gonna answer me, and even friends, sometimes friends I think I can help. A lot of people are gonna say, you annoy me. And that's fine, that's not personal. There was not the right time, the right moment, and you need to get a lot of rejections before you get to get some customers. And also, if you're a startup, you're obviously tiny. But everyone, started somewhere. And even big corporates, they do have a problem. They are slow.
Sure.
They need some kind of like innovation to stay in the game. Apple is 48 years old now today, and they're still innovating.
Yeah, exactly.
They're still, and they were born and they were talking to the revolutionary people mindset.
Different, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And also, if you're a startup, and you talk to big corporates and you are helping them reduce the amount of waste that they have, they are reducing the bills, they're gonna look at your solution, even if you're tiny, even if you're 10 people. So don't focus on the size, because at the end of the day, it's, even if you're a big corporation in front of me, you're still a guy with a problem in the workplace, and you have projects, you want to solve them, you want to achieve them.
Yeah.
Even if you're building a rocket, you have like a lot of problems. And so if I can help you with a project planning management tool, if I can help you with this, structural thing that, that you've been stuck on for years,
right? Yeah.
And you just decided to go with this, and because you don't have any other options.
Yes.
I actually talked to a guy a few days back. He has a really great tool for privacy in software. Yeah. So it's like a tool where, when you enter, I'm Christina, and I'm a CEO of a Transatlantia, it removed the Christina. It's like, hey, I'm first name and at company name.
Sure.
And that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And the guy is like, the tool is open source. So this is also, he's a Swiss guy. And he said, I got this email yesterday from the head of technology partnerships at Apple.
Yeah. I
was like, wow, congrats.
Right.
And he said, yeah, we're just two of us.
Yeah.
Just the two of us. It's like, yeah, congrats. And the guy say, yeah, but they're paying $10,000 a month for the tool. And he say, yeah, but it's getting a lot more expensive for us because this company wants this and this other company wants this. He said, yeah, but your tool is necessary. Like, can they do otherwise?
Right.
Is there another option for them? And he said, no, there's no option out there. And even the fact that it's open source, 90% of the code, they can just take it and internalize it. And then they ask for us to jump in and say, yeah, okay, you charge.
Yeah.
You go, you take the 10,000, but then you say, okay, for customization, it's 10 times more. Right. But they don't have another option. Even they are just the two of them. And he said, yeah, but if I'm not able to add that load to my team, like two-people team, that's a rich guy problem. Like, you can always hire people.
Always find people. Right.
Always that there's no fear to have, it's like, don't be afraid of massive ambition. Like, you're already talking to Apple, which is like maybe the second most
dream, I would say.
Yeah. Exactly. Right, you want Apple or NVIDIA to contact you and say, I want it. And so this is what I don't see, with U.S. companies, even European founders going into the U.S.
Right.
They usually like 10 times or 100 times their ambitions when they go there.
Yeah.
And that's good. One thing that we can talk about is really also the personal side. When I started working with an entrepreneur, we go personal very fast. Yeah. I don't mean like I don't mind with the business, but I ask about the environment.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is really important. It's like, are your family supportive of what you do? Are your friends supportive of what you do? And I will also try to think like him and try to say, okay, are you trying to live the same exact life as before when you were an engineer or researcher, a project manager, and trying to keep everything the same way, but being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And that's not working.
And it's not going to work.
It's not going to work because you're doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Right.
So that's where there is a problem, because you cannot stay the same. Your life will change.
Right. Yeah.
I have this entrepreneur, we've been talking for 3 years.
Yeah.
He knows he has to go to the US.
Yeah.
That's
thinking about it, right?
Yeah. He's in Bordeaux. It's fine. It's like he's going out with the boys at night.
Yeah.
But he's like a CEO of a Deeptech company. I keep on repeating, and we have regular call every 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, when do you go to the US? Because he's telling me, I need to go. It's like, when is ticket?
All right. Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Right.
And he said, 75% of my market is US based. And it's like, what's the problem with not going?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, family, friends, and everything. It's like, we're waiting for the right moment.
Yeah, and the right moment never comes. I feel like I've seen this as well. It takes from the time that you start thinking about going into the U.S. to the time when you're actually ready to make that move. It does take, it's like 2 to 3 years. It can take a while, a lot of time of preparation. So it's like, if you're saying, we're really going to go hard in on the U.S. market in end of 2025. And then you're going to wait until October to really start working. Like, that's not going to work. Like, you should have been starting in 2023 to really work on, building up your assets of, your digital presence, getting out there in the media in English, talking about what you're doing,
Going to fairs.
vision, going to fairs, events in the US, getting those contacts. I mean, there's a lot of groundwork and foundations that need to be laid. I mean, it's like building a house. You don't say like, I want to move into my new house next month. All right, let me start now looking at how to build that house.
It's going to be a tent.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be living in a tent, exactly. And it's like if you've got this kind of big project, you know that you need to be really starting a lot in advance, like I said, 2 to 3 years in advance, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to be scrambling and you're going to be trying to do things at the last minute, and it's and it just doesn't work out to that way. I would say it's a lot of preparation, a lot of work that sometimes, and I think this is the hard part, it's not the kind of work that gives you like an immediate result. And I think that's going back to why the people were like, I just need leads, I just need appointments. No, you've got to do the groundwork first. But it just takes time.
And also going back on this, it's a lot of frustration. One thing that I do, and it's a really good test. You can do it for yourself.
Okay, yeah.
It's like it's called I call it the CEO agenda test.
Yeah.
It's like every time I see a CEO and he's saying next step is US, selling to Germany, selling to you.
Right.
It's like, okay, like the focus is getting customer outside of your country, France, let's say. And usually it's like, what do you do every day?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Right.
And usually this is really revealing of the priority of the CEO. Is like, what do you do on the daily basis to tackle the problem? This is your main problem. You want to sell to Netherlands. Okay, fine.
Right.
It's like, what do you do every day?
Yeah.
You are, as you say, chief revenue officer,
right?
Chief sales officer before you can hire the head of sales.
Exactly.
And so usually it's like, okay, pull up your agenda.
Yeah.
And usually people don't want to.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to pull your agenda at that moment, that's something wrong. You're lying to me.
And you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I was doing the same before. So it's like I always got tracking on LinkedIn, and you are delaying the hard work.
They're like active procrastination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you are getting busy not doing the thing you need to do most. And no one is going to do it for you, because even the CEO at the end of the day, that you're responsible for your agenda. So put that first in your agenda.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be like, we see a lot of deep work and everything and, and productivity tools.
Yeah.
For me right now, my motto is doing less, like doing less of the other stuff and putting more in the deep work. Like, even if you are a CEO, you can have your 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon free. It doesn't have to be like coding work. You don't do algorithm. You go and you have 4 hours to call customers.
Talk to people.
Yeah, and you've been to this fair and this fair. Where's the lead?
Exactly. Following up.
Yeah, you need to call that guy. You have the number. It's on the business cards.
Call him up.
So the CEO agenda test is a really good example because you cannot lie. It's like, even if the agenda
on your Google Calendar,
and even if you jump on, those like publicity and advertisements, like, okay, you jump on this call and you got an article on this website on Forbes. Okay, how did it help the business? How many leads did you get out of this? You spent $30,000 or or euros or whatever for this cover, but did it help?
Did it help? Did it move the needle?
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it's frustrating for them because they just don't know what to say. Exactly. But also, this mindset shift, it's like you need to be accountable for your agenda.
Right.
And if this is the number one priority, I was supposed to have somebody on a podcast here, and he was telling me, no, that's not priority. And he had like 7 priorities at the same
No, that is one. One.
Let's do it again. I just listed everything. I just repeated everything he says. Like, my priorities are like customers, raising money, recruiting, ads, marketing, whatever. There was like 7, and I just stopped. And I was like, you see the problem.
Recipe for disaster right here.
And then he refused, to go on the podcast. Yeah. That's okay. That's fine. But it's like, okay, what do you do for our own good, for your own business?
Exactly. Yeah.
he couldn't answer to me, and I've been
And
waiting
you're
for.
like, yeah, I was gonna say, it goes back. You've got to be prepared to level down everything that you've been doing and everything that you think you know, and have that open mind. Because, like you said, if you're doing the same things but you're expecting different results, I don't know. I don't know if this is a true quote, but they say that Albert Einstein says that that's the definition of insanity. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to work.
And talking about translating this
Yeah.
fear, because I think you see this fear every day
Yeah. Yeah.
in your work, is like, how do you practically translate
Right.
European pitch
Yeah.
when going to the US?
Yeah.
Do you have
Right.
any tips to share?
Yeah. Because I think, what you said about the fear, I mean, when you're pitching, often we think pitching is getting up on like a stage, you've got your slide deck, you're at a pitch contest, or you're pitching investors or whatever. For me, when I talk about pitch, it's every moment that you have to talk about what you're doing. What's your mission? What do you have to offer the people? So this could be, a pitch presentation. It can be a conversation. It can be the way that you show up on social media, on LinkedIn. Every opportunity can turn into an opportunity to pitch. And I don't mean pitch as in like forcing a sales speech down someone's throat. I mean, just getting people on board. And if we look at it that way, I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I see when pitching is forgetting that, for example, if you're in an investor pitch, the investor is looking for two things probably. A return on investment. I mean, that's why they're investing, is because, all right, I'm going to give you money. I'm placing a bet on you, and I want to see more money come back to me. So they're looking for the investment, and they're also looking at you as the founder. So, the idea is, I'm looking at you. I want to see that you've got a vision, that you have this dream, that you are in this for some sort of personal reason other than just, I want to go out there and I want to make money. That's important. But taking it to a deeper, more personal level is also, I mean, like you said, when you're selling, maybe it is business to business, but it's also human to human. And we want to see people who have these big visions, who have these big dreams, and who are like going all in on what they want to accomplish. And one of the things I almost always see when I look at a pitch deck is what's first? The product, the tech, the specs, how innovative. I'm like, if you're pitching something, it's probably by definition innovative. And even if it doesn't have to be innovative, it can just be something really simple, but solves a problem and has a huge market. And there was a story that I can't remember the brand name, but it was talking about, it was something like eyelash extensions or eyebrow shaping or something like, and the people, I think it was the investors, they didn't see the opportunity there, but the lady, she's like, no, this is a huge market. It's not sexy. It's not techie. But then when she finally got it out to the market, like that thing exploded just because there was the market and then there was the investment. And she wasn't talking, about the tech or anything like that. And so if you're going in, if you have like a tech solution and you're going in and you're talking about the technical specifications, if you're using a lot of fancy, long jargon words, that's not selling a dream to anybody. In fact, it's probably confusing people because investors are not necessarily tech people. They're investors. They're like financial. So you want to make sure that you are going in there as a founder who has a vision, who has a dream. What's the story behind what you do? And putting yourself as a person and your story back into that pitch. And then also showing what's the market potential and what's the return on the investment going to be. I would say, you want to talk about problem, solution, the why. So this is your personal why behind it. What's the opportunity for the investment, for the investors? Very clearly stating what are the next steps. And then for pitches where it's like a formal pitch, instead of just ending on something like, if you have any questions, come and talk to me afterwards. If they have questions, they will come talk to you. Ending on like an essence statement. And this is kind of like, you want to end it with a bit of emotion. Leave them with that little dream. Leave them thinking like, wow, I've got to get into this. And, we make decisions, buying decisions with emotions, and then we justify them with logic.
Yeah,
and with pitching, it's the same thing. If you're taking the emotions out, if you're taking the human out, you're taking the story out, you're just focusing on the logic. That's not how people make decisions. They justify it with the logic, but you get them in on the sale with the emotion and the essence.
So if you think about two very famous example.
Yeah.
Actually, you tapped into two things that
Yeah.
wanted to go off tracks a little bit.
Yeah.
With this is Uber and Airbnb. So let's go with Uber. Uber, if you remember, like 15 years ago, when you wanted to go to grab a taxi, you had this frustration as a user because you were somewhere and maybe the taxi was just around the corner. You couldn't see it. And you were not able to see each other, so no business was made. And this solved that problem with, the app, where you connect and you see where your cab is. And that's emotion. You remove the frustration for the host, the customer, and for as well the cab driver.
Yeah.
Because the cab driver, there were a lot of complaints from existing taxi drivers.
Of course, yeah.
But then even, when you were able to phone and call somebody for a taxi driver, even it's like, I'm close by. And they were saying, you can call 5 times and say, I'm close by. And now you see on the app that the guy is like 5 minutes away or 15 minutes away, but he's stuck in traffic. But still, you're reinsured. Yeah. And it's all about emotions. And on the storytelling side, that's very interesting. The Airbnb,
right?
It's been existing for, I think it's 2005, so 20 years.
For a long time.
Right?
Right.
A long time. They still repeat the same story about them going from East Coast, I don't know, Boston maybe, to LA and just having to rent a room.
Right.
Part, of a flatmate, house. I don't know, like the story exactly, but they say, we actually had to sublet from somebody, and it was super hard because there was a trust issue. Yeah. And as well, after we wanted to rent out and let people go in our rooms, then how can you be sure that this somebody is trustworthy? Yeah. And they remove, here comes the emotion. Right. The emotion is, can I trust somebody out? The money transaction between the two parts, the one with the room, the one with or the house, full house, and the one renting it. And this is where they use the story over and over again about the San Francisco room to spare. Yeah. That's the story still today, 20 years after. And they still use the emotion of, it's safe for hosts, safe for guests.
The emotion.
Usually when you think about it, like the tech is amazing and it's smooth, and the back end the front end is very nice. The design is very nice. That there are 3 co-founders. I think 2 of them are designers. So that's why it's super neat and fine. Yeah. But then after they really focus on making it a payment platform, basically, because you when you rent something on Airbnb, you just pay. You get the money for the host, the money after you're gone or after you started the stay. And the tech was good, but that's not, they didn't stop.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like if Uber, if their message had been something like, use the most advanced GPS geolocalization so that you can see your cab driver in real time. I don't care how you do it. I just want to know that I don't have to stand there on a street corner when it's raining wondering if my driver's going to get here in 5 minutes or 15 minutes, So yeah, it's I almost want to say that whatever your tech is just the means of making something happen. And what we want to hear about is what happens. And how does that impact me? And how is that going to help me and make my life better or easier or richer or whatever? But
there's there's actually like 3 things that you can improve. If you come back to the roots of reasons people buy, it's health, it's fame, or it's money.
Right. Exactly.
And that's either helping one of the 3 things. They're sub-labeled, like health, financial health. There's like body health,
relationship,
love, everything. There's money and there's the fame part. And it all comes down to the thing. Even if you're helping somebody in a corporate environment, they want a raise because they found you as a startup, and they're going to be like, the boss is going to be like, okay, that's exciting. You solved that problem we've been having for decades. Or they want, a bonus. They just want a bonus, or they just want to be healthier and have a less stress with this problem that they're struggling with. So that's, if you come back to it, that you buy with emotion and try to justify with logic.
Exactly. That's it. Now, switching over a little bit, let's imagine that, I'm a deep tech startup. I'm getting some traction in Europe, but quickly I see that I want to go bigger. I want to go globally. What would be the first step to actually scaling globally and getting to that bigger level?
Okay, the first step is not raising more money.
Which I think a lot of people probably would have said, I need to get more money.
I need to get more money, but you need to get more money from customer. So I would say start selling now.
Right.
So before raising more money, before onboarding more people into the company, is really trying to get face time with customer and let them talk. So even if you're based in the UK or Germany, try to go, if you're, thinking about going to the US, travel to fairs, like go to 3 fairs this year in the US and get for customer FaceTime and try to get out of your laboratory.
Right.
If you can, try to get some presence there. You can also hire a freelancer, a local freelancer. That's a good way to step into a country. You hire a German freelancer who knows the German market and you work alongside with him. It's going to help you save like months, even years of knowing the market because you're going to be able to say in your in English or in your language that you're doing wrong with this. Germany is not ready for this.
Right.
If you're talking about climate tech, for example, Germany is a lot of coal right now. And, they are not going at all on the nuclear side. So don't talk about nuclear in Germany.
Yeah.
And so that's, and that's mainstream. So if you want to go mainstream, but even if you don't want to go mainstream, because I like this example of Tesla. It's like, I don't want a Tesla, you don't have a Tesla either.
Yeah.
But I know about Tesla. It's like 99.9% of the population don't have a Tesla.
Right.
But those people are talking to the 0.1% buying a Tesla.
Right, yeah.
This is not the right time to talk about Tesla.
Forgetting about politics and all that, let's go back to pre-election day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but the electric car and those company and those cars are amazing, engineering.
Yeah, no, totally.
They are the best electric cars, in 2025 by far. And so if you remove the politics side of things, a lot of people know about Tesla and they are fancy, even if they are becoming affordable, still a lot of people are not able to buy it. And you want a lot of people knowing about your brand
before they're ready to buy.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And also, Ferrari and Rolex, they also do advertisements. So, and they will never stop. Yeah. And so you want to get to the point where you are able to buy a Rolex, where you want to buy a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And so they cannot stop doing marketing because otherwise you will not feel this surge inside you where, I want a Ferrari. I want to succeed and get a Ferrari because Ferrari is a sign of success. So you want to go and start publishing. And, these tips, we're going to share you a few tips because a lot of people also are frustrating, especially tech founders, about doing marketing, doing publishing, even on LinkedIn, just, open up your LinkedIn and start publishing. Is like, you have to desacralize publishing.
Exactly,
it's probably first off, it's probably going to be bad, the first few posts.
Yeah, sure.
But then people want to know that you are a real human behind the screen.
Yeah.
Usually I see people blocking like 4 hours on Monday just to say LinkedIn publish content for the entire week. And then they are sitting in front of the screen and nothing comes up. Right. It's like, okay, inspiration comes and go. Don't try to push it and, push it hard.
Yeah.
Just schedule that moment where you publish, use a scheduler, but then inspiration comes when you're running.
Sure.
When you are with your kids, when you are at a conference. And then just pull out your phone or your notepad and just write the idea.
Quick note.
Exactly. And then when you are ready to edit, but you already have 10 bullet points.
Exactly.
One thing also I advise, I say to founders is really to talk about what you do all the time and how you help your customers.
Yeah.
That's what we say, about emotions. When you want to sell a toothpaste, which is a tech thing, which was a tech thing, they say
there's some technology to develop. Yeah, right.
It's like you're not selling like you are the whitest ones or the less bacteria.
Yeah.
You wouldn't buy this, but I'm gonna make you feel beautiful and seen and attractive. Then you're gonna say, okay, that's a nice toothpaste. That's like makeup.
Or it's like if you go to a toothpaste, there's like 50 different toothpastes and you're just like, I don't know which one. How do you stand out? It's by that emotion. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's like try to show the value, the outcome that people have with using your products, and that's gonna be long, but people wants what other people have.
Exactly.
And so if you are saying, okay, I'm helping this company strive, and a lot of people answer to me like, when I say this is I'm gonna spend time talking about my customer.
Yeah.
Where I should be talking about my company. It's like, okay, yes, but you want to spend marketing money / time.
Yeah.
Because time is money.
Right.
Talking about how you help customers.
Exactly. Right.
Because then your customer is going to be happy. Right. It's going to say, okay, I'm working with Christina and we landed a $1 billion contract in the US.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go to the US, go with Christina. That's, if you want to go with this toothpaste, go with this toothpaste because it's helping me being more attractive.
Right.
My
Yeah.
wife, and now I got married and I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's all good. And that's why those companies like Trustpilot are so valuable because you have other people buying from this provider, and we all look up
social proof.
Yeah, and we all look up on Google Maps for companies and restaurants, and it's like it's the same for you.
Exactly.
Your reputation is in the room before you are in the room.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like, like there's an expression like you are who Google says you are, basically, Don't choke on your water.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's really important. You talked about getting out there and getting on LinkedIn, and yeah, it's going to be crap when you get started. I mean, I have a YouTube channel with almost 500,000 subscribers on it, been producing pretty much a video every week for the past 10 years. You go back and you watch the first videos, which are still on there. They are crap. I mean, I'm in my office, I'm filming with the computer. I have no sound. My light is like 2 IKEA lamps. I mean, they're just awful, but you got to get out there and you got to get started because that's how you get the momentum going. And the best way to improve is to get out there and do it and then look at what happens and look at the results. I mean, if you're doing videos, for example, to promote your product or your company, yeah, it's hard to look at yourself and to watch yourself and to hear yourself speaking, perhaps with an accent and all of that. But that's the work that you have to do because that's the fastest way to improve, in fact. And I would say that also it's like, if you're going out into the American market, again, you're going into a market where the culture is different, the buyer psychology is different, the pains are different, the concerns are different. And going out there and talking to people and pitching your thing and falling on your face a bunch of times is going to be the best, fastest way to make those improvements because you're testing it on the market and not in your mind. And I know that it's really comfortable to sit there and to theorize and to be like, no, I just have to get my LinkedIn strategy in place before I start, or I just have to get my thought leadership. You got to get out there. And that's going to come by doing, in fact. So yeah, I feel like you just got to get out there, put yourself out there, put your ego aside. Otherwise, you're just going to stay in your safe little bubble and you're never going to be confronted by the no or the I don't understand or we don't need that. And if you're never confronted with that, then you're never going to get to the place where you're able to offer something and to pitch it in a way that makes people say, I need that now. Wow. How does that not already exist?
And you mentioned this first failure is it's the same as with training.
Yeah.
So when you're training for anything like working out or running or whatever, because we both run, so I use this example, but it's like the first 100 runs are gonna be very painful. You're probably gonna go out first 10 times and the first few days after the run are gonna be awful. Right. But then when you get started with this, after hundreds, come back to me and trying to tell me what happens.
Exactly, yeah.
So the hundreds of sales calls that you're gonna make, the first fairs, are gonna be terrible. But then you gotta skip them and go quick step to success.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So you gotta squeeze and do those first reps. And even if you are just getting started, a lot of, I listened to this great advice from Pierre Gobil.
Yeah.
It's like we are in Europe, we have a tendency to stick to our bad ideas, bad businesses. YC, Y Combinator, which is an accelerator in the US, it's a 3 months program,
Yeah.
and usually you are entering with an idea, and
Yeah.
you know, and leaving with a much different idea,
Yeah.
a much different business,
Mm-hmm.
because you are actually doing the work of testing out your ideas a number of times in a day. It's like usually from 1 week to another,
Yeah.
you it's a complete different business.
Exactly. Yeah.
I listened to this podcast. I don't know if it's a podcast. Yeah, it was a LinkedIn post.
Okay.
There is a guy in YC right now.
Okay, yeah.
So the winter cohort is doing a AI tool for lawyers, and he says a really good example of tips I'm now will provide to my customers.
Yeah.
Is like he's doing the job of his customer. So that's what they
yeah.
teach at YC.
Yeah.
It's like you even go further than just talking to a customer. They went to law firms and spend a day with an associate at a law firm in the US.
Yeah.
They say, okay, we got that wrong because we thought this was the typical day of a lawyer.
Yeah.
This is not. And they spend like 3 hours on this. Can we jump into this problem and help them, find, I don't know, I'm going to say bad thing, regulations. This is maybe a little bit off from your first idea, but then you got to pivot because this is where the pain is. And that's a really good test that you can do. Go to the factory floor. If you're a deep tech company, go to, if you're helping with waste, go to an existing waste treatment plant, water treatment plant. And go try to help them in their daily actions, because otherwise
you're imagining.
Yeah, you're
theorizing,
But then pivot. Then,
you've got to be willing to pivot. Yeah.
And bury the idea.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love with the idea all the time and say, okay, this is the game, the golden idea. No, this is not a golden ticket idea.
This idea will not be your golden idea.
Yeah, and probably 10,000 people in the world already thought about this.
Yeah, sure.
Why nobody's already implemented it? That's a good question to ask. Why is there not somebody in Asia or in the US already, or in Brazil already doing the same thing as me?
Right.
Maybe it doesn't work.
Exactly. You go out there. Yeah. And I definitely feel like I really like that. Go and spend a day with your clients, like just side by side observing and seeing what are their real problems. I mean, yeah, that's something I should probably do actually.
Yeah. What's for you step one when now I'm stepping in that the deep tech startup entrepreneur. Let's go for a German one, and I want to go into US. What's step one for you?
I'm going to say step one is you've got to focus on getting clarity. You've got to nail your niche, I would say, meaning who is your clients? What are their problems? What are you going to focus on? And just getting that right, because that is going to be the foundation of everything else that you're going to do. And if you and I don't want to say you've got to get it perfect before you get out there. You want to just get some clarity. And I shared a LinkedIn post on this the other day on here's a series of 12 prompts to get clarity on who is your target and how can you, what are their problems, et cetera. Not to say that's it, it's one and done, but to say get some of that clarity and then go out and talk to these people. And you might find that, yes, you got it right, but you might find that you're a little off and you need to course correct. And I feel like without doing that work, you can be working on your pitch. You can be working on your personal branding. You can be working on how you go out and who you're looking to network with. But if you've got that foundation off, everything else is going to be off. So I'm just going to say that's, yes, you have a product, you've got your clients and you know who they are. You've got to start over to do that in the US market, because you might find that maybe they're the same, maybe they're really different, but you've got to find that out by getting out there in the market and getting your hands dirty with people. Yeah.
On a totally different note, when I was a student at Georgia Tech, I toured a Chick-fil-A factory.
Okay.
That was a recruiting day, but
You eat Chick-fil-A after that?
Yeah, because of course it was it was a Chick-fil-A recruiting day.
Yeah.
So we got on a tour. It was near Atlanta, and that was funny because they explained how they were doing the international expansions. So they are not still yet in France. They were doing the English speaking country first.
Yeah, England.
And when they do that, they actually do a fake restaurant with no branding and no, let's say, no emphasis on anything. Like there's no highlight on this product or this product. They just want to try what people are actually eating.
Use,
Yeah. And so the main product in the US was the sundae.
Okay.
So like the ice cream. And the burger. And they did the same menu than in the UK. And the UK was the tea as well, and the tea and the nuggets. And I don't even know. I used to go on Chick-fil-A in the US. And so I don't even know where is the nuggets info on the card. In the back, I never look at the back because in the US, the front page of the menu is burgers. Burgers and ice cream, and that's it. And on the back, there's like
secondary.
There's probably salads on the back as well, but nobody looks at it. So they opened in the UK. They finally opened, and they put like the nuggets on top, the salty. It's not sweet. It's not as sweet. It's sour tea. And bubble tea as well. And that's the same company, same product, like just adapting the amount of focus of value on this side. Because also what's interesting for deep tech company is like usually the product is helping with different in different aspects, and so maybe your Focus 2 in Germany is going to be Focus 1 in the USA because that's the main problem, right? Exactly. And you can see this when you are tackling industrial and factory tools, factory software. For example, if you go with the factory for food companies, for food company, maybe in Europe, the problem is keeping everything under zero, very cold temperature. But then in the US, maybe just, they are just getting started with digital factory, and so you need to go one step below in terms of development. Saying, okay, you don't even have internet in the factory, so let's go and do this first step.
What's their real problems?
Exactly. So you're gonna say, let's go and look at the chain of cold, but they're not even there. You need to go first in the first problem that they have right now.
Right. Yeah.
So let's go into one of the topic I love most is the personal branding, corporate branding, and product naming. So you are an expert in that. So when European customer and European entrepreneurs go into US, how crucial is personal branding for their,
personal branding, that's the thing that's going to make you stand out. And that's also the thing that is going to get people on board with you, make them know, like, and trust you. Personal branding, I would say we do it a little differently. From what I see here in your personal branding, it's not like sharing your personal stories about like how your dad's ill. Like I see a lot of LinkedIn posts about this where people are just talking about their personal problems. Could be their problems as like a parent, or their problems of like how they had a bad relationship with their mom or something like that. And they're thinking like that's personal branding. And there's a difference between sharing your personal life, which there's a place for that, but we'll get into this. Sharing the details of your personal life, which has nothing related to your brand, that's not personal branding, versus sharing the details of your personal life because it connects back to the values of your brand in your company and the identity of your brand in your company. And so the personal branding is really, it's like you have to like incarnate what your company and what your brand is about. And so this is, aligning, sharing how you and your values and the things that you do, how you spend your time does actually reflect what your company and what your brand is all about. One of the things, for example, if I just take my own company, in part of what we talk about, it's always this idea of you've got to stop overthinking. You've got to stop doing the active procrastination. You have got to get out there and put yourself out there before you feel ready, because that's something that I've struggled with as an entrepreneur. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I would say I think I'm really bad at no, I just need to overthink and I need to plan, etc. So this is kind of at the same time a message to myself, but also a message to the people that are looking to go into the American market, because like you said, very often I have to think about it. I have to try this. I have to do some more research, etc. And so that's one way that my brand and the message that we're putting out there is also a part of me and my experience And that's, for me, it's, that's one part of the personal branding. And it also makes you more relatable. I mean, like you said, it's when you're doing sales, even if you're doing B2B, you're still doing human to human. And we want to see people that we can relate to, that we can identify with, that have a message and a mission that we want to get on board with. And so it's how do you in your daily life really incarnate the message and the mission of your company. And I mean, this can be things like, I mean, it's very strategic, I would say. And I think people don't realize how strategic you want to be about this. And I mean, I'm talking like coming up with like a lexical guide for your business, meaning what are the words, what are the key phrases that I'm going to keep throwing out there so that it gets into people's mind and it sticks. It can be about, two guys, I can't remember their names, but I remember their branding. This one guy, he is always in red, like head to toe, red. And I think his Instagram is like the red guy. So you identify him. Another guy, he's always in, and I don't like his personal branding, but that's okay. He's not there to please me. He's always in like a tank top, a black tank top, and he's very muscly. And Alex Hormozy is kind of the same way, but that's not the guy I'm thinking of. But you can see the little Alex Hormozy, he's got the thing on his nose, he's got a cap on, he's got a tank top on. That is part of your personal branding as well. And that works for him because of his personal story, his business experience, the topics that he talks about. And so all of this comes together as your personal brand. And like I said, it does take a lot of work. In fact, you look at people on LinkedIn, you're like, it looks easy. I can only imagine the amount of work and strategizing and testing out things that had to go into getting that right. And I think very often that is something that is neglected, especially by like tech founders, because they're like, I don't need to do all that salesy marketing BS stuff. And I'm like, it's not. That's the thing that makes you remember these people. So yeah, it's not just telling stories about how you struggle with whatever, and it has nothing to do with your brand and your business. That's just personal life. You want to find out, how do I bring in my personality into my brand and make it all aligned? And that's going to be your personal branding.
Yeah, you tapped onto something that I've been doing for the past 2 years, because I did your course 2 years ago, and you've seen it change. My branding has evolved like way more times in the last 2 years than before, because I refined it. I look at what works, what don't, and you tapped into something very very valuable about we are, when you go with tech founders or deep tech or climate tech, they usually got the innovation part right, but then there's the trustworthiness.
Exactly.
Because let's say you are a step already behind compared to American suppliers, American startups, because you are not an American. So you need to nail that part where you say, okay, I'm going to go with the French company, or I'm going to go with that Italian company or Indian company, whatever, because you need to, they need to relate to you. And if you've been talking like a French with a baguette and a beret for a year, maybe they don't relate to that.
Right.
Unless they are attracted to the, French ecosystem.
But yeah, right.
But that's betting on, and that's betting big.
Yeah.
So you don't want to bet like this. You want to be seen in the US, you want to be seen online as well. Because we don't, even when somebody appears on my feed somewhere, LinkedIn, on Instagram, usually I don't buy it directly. Okay, if it's interesting, I follow, but then sometimes I need more. I need to see him like a lot of times. And this has been a study from Daniel Priestley.
Right, yeah.
That you need to nail the 4-7-11.
11, right, the 7-11-4, which is they need to spend 7 hours with you. Now, not physically, but they need to spend 7 hours consuming your content or interacting with you virtually, watching your YouTube videos, reading your posts, whatever. 11 times. So yeah, they need 11 touch points and over 4 different places. And the idea is a little bit, it might be Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your blog, for example, or at an event. It doesn't all have to be virtual. But he explains it, they explain it. It's a little like if you've got a coworker that you only see at work in a professional context versus the coworker, you're working with them in the meetings, you have a coffee break with them, you go and you have a beer with them on Friday evening. Maybe you run into them because your kids both play on the same soccer team or whatever. You see them at the soccer field. You're going to have a much closer relationship, and you're going to kind of know and trust and like that person better than the guy that you just kind of cross in the office in the morning and you have meetings with and you don't really know anything else about him. Yeah.
You want to feel like a stranger.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah.
That's why the local freelancer can be a first good step for you, because when somebody approach you and I say, okay, I'm Jerome and I'm gonna sell to you to a French company, but we already have a point in common. We are French. We are both French. That's why there's a group of expatriates in some countries, because you already have a point in common and common interest, common background. That's something that you build trust upon. This is a particular day because I think yesterday was the end of the application for Y Combinator, which is this famous, and a lot about a lot of my LinkedIn posts were about this. And this is funny because people don't realize, entrepreneurs don't realize they don't have to go to YC because everything from YC is available online. And when you think about it, it's really counterproductive. It's a lot of people are telling me I cannot talk about what I do because I've been revealing my secrets. So
yeah.
That's wrong. Yeah. Because otherwise YC, without this, YC wouldn't be recognized as the best accelerator in the world. Right. Because, for example, I can give you 10 videos of YC where you can, go from exploring your ideas to finding the right co-founders to should I bootstrap, should I raise money? Yeah. And you don't need to go to San Francisco, but mainly it's building in them a reputation online. Right. Because you are watching the ideas, right? But then you are looking for implementation. So that's why you apply. You keep on applying for YC, and it's very hard. It's harder than Harvard, harder than MIT. And actually, fun fact, it's if you are in the street in the US, you have more chance of getting shots than so getting shot by a shotgun, than getting into YC, which is very funny.
All the guns out.
Right. But that's a funny statistics. And usually I try to say, okay, even if you apply for YC in 3 months or 6 months, I can skip all the things they're going to say. And you're going to say, okay, they're going to build something that people want. So what? Customer, product. And you can skip the part. You can go to the US because now the YC part, the YC batch give you some kind of trustworthiness. Yeah. If you're a
stamp of approval type thing.
Exactly. But then if you are saying even to YC, okay, with or without you, we're going to build this thing. That's also a proof that, they will want you more than you will want them, because they don't want to have in their cohort people that needs to be pushed. Yeah. They already have, a lot of applicants from all over the world with, great CVs and great experience, but they want the pushers. They just want to highlight the pushers, like the real
people that are going to get out there and do it no matter what.
Yeah, if you want to build the next NVIDIA or NBRB, you're good to go. But then you don't need them. Like, you don't really need them. And you need to understand that as YC, you can always publish everything you do. And even if somebody takes everything you do and start the same company, it's going to be different from you. Yeah. And it's a good thing that everybody's copying you, because you can see a lot of accelerator right now being shut down because they don't have the same quality as YC. So even if you just copy paste everything that YC does, everything is you copy a startup A, startup X, and you do exactly the same, that's going to be different. You're going to be executing differently. Right. So don't care about people copying you and these things, because the important is like you need to be innovative, yes, but trustworthy. That's the fact of being online, starting building a presence in the US online and affairs, have a local office whenever you go and accepting meetings. So So that's the point. And going back to a little bit to product naming, is there cultural nuances that Europeans should know when they are naming their products?
Yeah, I would say kind of hard to give like one sort of blanket tip, like blanket statement of things to know. But I would say that things that you want to avoid are going to, first of all, when you're starting off your company, you want to start, if you think you might go global, just start thinking about that from the start and saying, all right, if I'm doing a company, and I mean, you can change it, but then there's some work involved. But if you're planning on going global, you want to avoid things that are going to be hard to pronounce in English.
Ew.
Things that maybe it's a play on words or a reference in your native language that is not going to carry over. A really good example of this, and I've shared this on LinkedIn, a little carousel about how the company Pumput, the applesauce in the pouch thing, when they wanted to go into the U.S. market. So I worked on that project. I'm not going to say like I am responsible for getting them into the U.S. market. It wasn't that, but we did work on the messaging and the communications. And Pumput in French, I mean, that evokes something. Pum, the apples, put, your friends. And it's, for me, kind of a product that even though all people love it in France, it's kind of like, you imagine like school children in the playground with their friends, their buddies, etc. And so that's very evocative. In the U.S. market, it doesn't mean anything, and it's hard to pronounce, and it's just it doesn't work. So when they went into the U.S. market, they totally rebranded. And when I say rebranded, everything. They changed that. It's Go-Go Squeeze in the U.S. Their marketing in France, if you go and look at their website, it's all about doing a lot with little and simplicity and the quality of the fruit, things that are very important in French culture. So they nail it on there. Going into the U.S. market, they became applesauce with electrolytes to fuel your day because you can, you're unique and you never want to stop and blah, blah. And I mean, that wouldn't work in France for this product, let's say.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas in the U.S., we know that, for example, when you're a kid, and I have lived this personally, you start school at like 7:30, you finish school at 2:30. Then you've got all of your extracurricular activities. You're doing band practice for 3 hours a day, and then you're doing soccer practice until like 9 o'clock at night. And you are on the go all the time. And so, if that's their target, maybe, let's say school kids and teenagers in the U.S., they have understood that you're constantly on the go. You need to be fueled. You need to have all of that energy. And so, from their name, Go-Go Squeeze, which already sounds a bit, dynamic, let's say, to their positioning and their messaging and their marketing, all of that had to change. And now they succeeded in doing something which is very hard, meaning they went into a market where their concept didn't exist. Like they created that market in the US. And now they're they own that market. So if you can get this right, there are huge rewards. So I would say, naming, make sure it works in the US. Another good example, Walaxy, or I don't know if they're in the US or not, but that name would very easily go over because it's easy to pronounce. Galaxy, you think of big, infinite, which is maybe kind of what you want when you're prospecting. Datadome, which is a client of ours, that name, clear, easy to pronounce. There's a little bit of alliteration with the data dome, and you can imagine a dome protecting your data, which is they're in cybersecurity. Make sure that your name doesn't translate or doesn't evoke something vulgar, I would say. And I'm thinking of a company which I will not name because I don't want to name and shame. I think they do, and I might be getting this wrong, small portions of Southern California street food, I think. If you took them and their name and you brought it into France and someone Googled their name, let's just say that you would find some very vulgar results.
Yeah.
So they would have to change because they're coming into a different market. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. But what about, that thinking about the name, that is one form of anticipation. But what about from an economic standpoint? What do you think are some of the key differences that European entrepreneurs should anticipate when they're scaling into the US?
They should anticipate that there are much bigger money pockets there.
Yeah.
It's things go fast and they go really big.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about raising funds,
right,
a lot of people don't expect that kind of like seed level that the one you do in the US.
Yeah.
And that's been proven because there is a study where they took similar company launching in Europe, launching in the US by European entrepreneur. So though that's, very simple.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they are like 100 times more valuable and profitable at the end of the day. So that's really like a really huge market going big and not building like fake market, fake customer. They're really like you building things that are very huge and have a global impact.
Right. Yeah.
100% of global leaders right now, European, even like European or not. There's been a study where in any fields, tech or not tech, 100% of the leaders in the industry either targeted the US first or second after the local market.
Okay, right, yeah.
So they're really, even if you're like building a quantum mechanics stuff or building a nuclear energy reactor, US should be like first or second.
Right.
So that's really like a go, no go, because you might want to be a European leader. That's fine. But if you want to be a global leader, like Airbnb, Nvidia, Apple, you want to focus really on addressing the US market second or first if you are already in the US. That's the difference. And the difference is also that it's okay to fail. Like even I've seen company like Lago, which is an open source Stripe, where they say, okay, we did YC with an idea. It was bad. We raised money on it. And then we raised money again on a different idea. But then we have some customer validation. But then the VC trusted us because we were a good team. We were going to go there anyway. And they didn't want to be out of the game.
They didn't want.
And so the 100% return, that they want was way off, like way more. So that's the things that I would say that the market is really, in terms of financial capacity, huge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. And I think it was, what was it, in 2003, it was like in Europe, it was like 53 billion that were raised versus 138 billion in the US. I mean, the scale is just, once you're, I would say, past Series A, you're probably going to need to be going into the US just because the scale of things are a lot bigger, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I think we're pretty done with this interview.
I think we covered a lot of ground. I mean, it's just like from personal branding to corporate branding to getting out there, putting yourself out there, the opportunities, and
and also getting more time with customer, whether it's in India, France, and Germany, in the US.
In the market, not in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. And so if people wanted to follow you, where can they find you?
So on LinkedIn, they look up Christina Rebuffet-Broadus. I don't think there's two of us. Or they can go to Transatlantia.com and they can find out about our Transatlantic Entrepreneur Accelerator. I've also got a free video there that they can go and watch on the 5 steps that you must get in place in order to start building up your presence in the U.S. market and succeeding with American clients. So they can go and find me over there. And what about you? Where can they find you in Reactor Media?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, obviously, publishing every day. Also on YouTube and podcast. On the YouTube, you're going to find a lot of more in-depth interviews with tech founders and deep tech founders. A lot more are coming. I already also interview some VCs because they are interesting fellows to interview, and they have got a big overview of the industry. And if you want to have a newsletter where I go, deep dive into some kind of industries, you can always follow me. And I'm always looking forward to find new guests for my podcast. So if you want to sit down in Christina's chair,
my spot.
Exactly. And I'm looking forward to showing the entrepreneur journey and find out more about the company, how they are expanding, how they tackle and they translated innovation into real businesses. So that's it. You can find me, everywhere. I'm started on Instagram. Just started. So, it's getting slow, but then you got to start some.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much, Christina.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerome.
See you next time.
See ya.